especially in choosing a mate, in choosing a partner. How was it people saying that you're too independent?
I mean, I was dating before 25.
Yeah.
For me, finding a partner, it's like friendship, right?
Correct, yeah.
It's like first you have to be really good friends.
Correct,
You know,
yeah.
you could be dating for 10 years and you part ways, it's fine.
Yeah.
But if you marry
Right,
and you
yeah.
separate, it's like, oh my God, you divorced.
What is one cause or issue you wish men and women openly talk about?
I mean, we don't openly talk about anything. There's a lot of pressure on men as well to be a certain way, to be the breadwinner.
When you did Fire, it had a huge impact on the journey of LGBTQ. What did the movie do? Because 29 years later, still people talk about it.
This is a subject that we don't openly talk about it.
Yeah.
But that time there was no vocabulary.
Correct.
That time there was nothing called LGBTQIA+. I think just talking to people across section of responses helped me grow. Realize how deeply prejudiced and hypocritical as a society we were.
Have you ever felt the need to slow down?
Always.
So Nandita, I thought we'll start at the beginning of your life, your upbringing. It's been talked about a lot. You had a we call it unconventional, but it's not unconventional. Your father is an artist.
It's conventional for me, but
Correct.
maybe unconventional for
For
someone
others,
else
yeah.
who may not have had the same.
Correct. So, your father discovered, working from home way earlier than many of us did today, I think.
That's true, because he's a painter and he had his studio at home.
Right, yeah. So while your mother went to work, your father was at home with you, etc. So how did that upbringing make you somebody who doesn't pay attention to gender roles? It's not like mother takes care, father goes out. I mean,
Absolutely.
there's actually no rules anywhere. So
Yeah.
when you were growing up, did you see others being other way? Did you think what you had was normal? I mean, just tell me a little bit about how this conventional, unconventional
Well, but yeah, whatever is at home, that becomes your normal.
Right,
Right?
yeah.
If you grow up in a household which has doctors, you would know far more about medicine and you would understand the vocabulary. That would be your normal. It's
Yeah.
only as you grow up and you realize, you go out in the world, you see, oh, this is not that conventional.
Yeah.
People start asking you questions. So yes, you rightly said.
Yeah.
From the time I remember, my mother used to work and she was working at the National Book Trust. So she had a
Right.
full 9-to-5 job. And my father was a painter and he cooked at home. And I used to really think that fathers cook, clean,
Yeah.
and for recreation paint, and mothers
Yeah.
go to work.
Right,
And
yeah.
there doesn't seem anything odd about it.
Correct,
and I'm
yeah.
actually very grateful for that role reversal.
Yes.
Because I didn't have to stereotype, I didn't have to think that no, mothers have to cook and clean and they have to be, stay-home mums. Nothing wrong with that.
Correct,
As
yeah.
long as it's a choice.
Correct,
and,
yeah.
And we know it's never a choice.
Right,
So,
yeah.
so yeah, I think that sort of subconsciously impacted me that I would never, I never sort of had this thing about maa ke haath ka khana.
Yeah,
Like you always
right,
think
yeah.
that my mother, in fact, she's right here. So if I keep looking there, now you know whom I'm looking at.
Yeah.
But she would do the pressure cooker kind of food and,
Yeah.
sort of rush around, taking care of us, going to work, etc. And,
Yeah.
and now I'm doing as a mother.
Right,
I have
yeah.
a 15-year-old.
Yeah.
And you realize there is forget about no judgment, but you realize that there are different ways of being.
Correct,
That
yeah.
there is no one convention. That in itself gets broken at a very early age.
Correct,
This
correct,
whole idea
yeah.
of stereotype or this is normal. This
Correct.
word normal is
Correct.
a huge burden. Like,
Correct, yeah, yeah.
Because it's an attempt to homogenize everything, to say the way we think, the way we live, the way we dress, the way we do, this is normal.
Yeah.
You can at the most say, this is my normal.
Right, yeah,
You can't
yeah.
even say it for a country or a city or a community or
Or
anybody.
even two different people in the
Or
same
two
household.
different people, exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful for this very early role reversal,
Yeah.
which kind of, sort of expanded, I think, my way of looking at what men and women should be doing.
Yeah.
And, what they are destined to do. Yeah.
For me also, my father was a single parent. My mother passed away, etc. So to me, it was like he was my mom and dad. I would talk all kinds of things with him, including my dating problems and stuff like that. But, later on in life, when I started dating people, it's difficult because the world is a certain way, and I've grown up not seeing that.
Yeah.
So when I first started dating people, they'd say that you're too independent. You don't seem to need anybody. I'm like, it's true. I don't need any. I want someone, but I don't need anyone.
Exactly.
But how was it for you in terms of when you have a certain upbringing, certain independence, and then you go into the world where 90% of the world is a certain way, especially in choosing a mate, in choosing a partner? How was it? Did you find people saying that you're too independent, or you yourself saying, well, this person is, what, like, for example, for me, when I dated somebody and they said that, oh, we need to do everything together, I'd be like, it's a red flag for me. I'm like, no, I will not do everything.
I have to be me, you have to be you, like, and there's friends. An us.
Yeah, right. But it makes it difficult to find a partner. So how was it for you, especially you were an actress, you're drop dead gorgeous, you're going out, there's a certain expectation of this public persona, it's even more difficult.
Much later.
Yeah.
I mean, I was dating before 25.
Yeah,
so,
right.
24 whenever I started acting.
Right, yeah.
My parents also had a love marriage. They met, they separated when I was 6.5. So, I mean, all sorts of conventions were broken back then. There was no judgment, and marriage wasn't seen as this sacrosanct institution. It was something that by choice you come together. If you think that, it's not working out, then you part ways, and, there's no animosity.
Correct.
It doesn't have to be acrimonious. My mother's parents actually also had a love marriage. They literally met in jail. Is that right?
Yeah.
And, they were part of the freedom struggle, and they got to know each other at a very young age. So this whole thing of, in fact, arranged marriage still surprises me, that you can actually, I mean, again, no judgment on that, because sometimes arranged marriages work better and love marriages because the expectations are different. But just this thing that you have to spend the rest of your life with somebody that you don't know at all, is just, as an idea, is, sort of scary to me. But, you know, I mean, for me, finding a partner was about who you get along with. It's like friendship, right?
Correct, yeah.
It's like, first you have to be really good friends.
Correct.
And when we part with friends, I mean, there were some very close friends in my college days or my school days. We have parted ways, but if we meet again, we pick up the threads. But we've lost some friends. And nobody judges that.
Correct.
You could be dating for 10 years and you part ways, it's fine. But if you marry and you separate, it's like, oh my God, you divorced.
Right.
It's still such a big tag. That piece of paper, this institution that was created for more pragmatic reasons of property and ownership and all of that has become bigger.
Correct.
And
I always joke that in the olden days, when they said till death do us part, people died at 40 or 45.
Exactly.
Now we are dying at 90,
Absolutely.
So if you get married in your 20s, that's like 3/4 of your life.
So right. I mean, the mortality rate, it wasn't planned for this long. Like 10 years, 20 years, it's fine. But, you have to live the rest of your life. And people live. And people compromise, and a caring grows, and sometimes it's convenience, sometimes it's children, sometimes it's what people will say. There are various reasons. I mean, divorce rate in our country is 1% compared to France and America, which is 50%.
Right.
But it doesn't mean 49%, no pun intended. But it doesn't mean that 49% are blissfully, happy in their marriages.
But, I believe, my father used to say that it doesn't matter whether you're married and love or love and married. The real work starts after getting married anyway. And it's never rosy, It doesn't matter whether it's a job or a marriage or a parenting or a profession. The glamour side is only 10% of it. 90%
the honeymoon
of
period.
It, forget honeymoon period. Throughout the period, there's only 10%. I mean, like, for example, in what we do, people say, oh, you get to meet interesting people. That's only 10%, behind the scenes. It's a lot of work. Set up, what do you do, who's coming? So we never see the behind the scenes. So I want to talk a little bit to you about, you've been a social activist and you call yourself an accidental actor. And, it's old news, but still I want to talk a little bit about it. Like, when you did Fire in those days, it's one of the not one,
96,
probably the
my God.
Yeah, 96.
Like 29 years ago.
Yeah, year after I got married. It's the first movie where well-known actresses
I wasn't well known at all.
Yeah,
then,
well,
but
you
yeah,
became
Shabana
well known.
Azmi, and
Shabana.
and just the subject. I think
Correct.
it was
Yeah,
more
and it
than
was a
anything.
very sensitive subject, and it had a huge impact on the journey of LGBTQ
Of course.
in India, in reversing some of the laws later, etc. So, talk to me a little bit about how did that come about, and was there a big decision on your part, and also what did you see? What did the movie do? Because 29 years later, still people talk about it.
Yeah.
What impact did it have on the LGBTQ movement
So
in
yeah,
India?
just to pick up from what you last said
Right.
about independence, I
Correct.
think my parents did give me that space to question and
Right.
to think independently. I think that's such a privilege.
Right,
When we
yeah.
think of privilege, we only think of the material privilege.
Correct.
But I think the privilege,
Freedom of the mind.
freedom of the mind is the biggest freedom. I mean,
Correct.
even today, I feel the
Yeah.
ability to be able to say no to things that you don't want to do
Correct, yeah.
is an amazing freedom, and I would value that over all material things,
Yes,
any
yeah,
day.
yeah.
So when I did Fire in 1996, and at the time I didn't know who Deepa Mehta was. I stumbled upon this film. We were introduced by somebody, and it was a subject that, even though my parents were very liberal, it wasn't a subject we talked about it at home.
Yes.
It was a very inclusive household. We had people from different nationalities, skin color, of course, and
Yeah.
caste and religion and class and all of that, and also from the community, from the LGBT community. But that time there was no vocabulary.
Correct.
That time there was nothing called LGBTQIA plus or
Correct,
whatever.
yeah,
There was
yeah,
no L
yeah.
also. It was
Correct,
just
yeah.
homosexuality, heterosexuality.
Correct, yeah,
So I
yeah.
remember I first gave the script to my mother because she's a writer, and I wanted her to read it. And I remember she had put little chits of paper where there was sort of more intense and intimate scenes, and she said, "Would you be comfortable doing it? If
Yeah.
you think you're going to be comfortable." And I said, "Well, I mean, it's a woman director. She seems really sensitive, and you know." And this is a subject that we don't openly talk about it. And it not only talked about sort of the LGBTQ situation or, the emotions that people go through, but also it sort of challenged patriarchy.
Correct.
This whole notion
also
of
the
lack of
repression
choice and
yeah.
repression and marriage and all of that. So it was, and I had done my social work. I was working with NGOs.
Correct,
I had
yeah.
no desire to come into films at all. This was like this one-off thing. Like
Yeah.
everyone said, "Oh my God, that was such a bold first
I mean, if
film."
it's just a one-off thing, to
But
pick
for
that
me-
as the first one.
But there wasn't a concept of first because I
Correct,
didn't
yeah.
know there was going to be a second,
Correct,
right?
yeah.
I just thought, okay, this sounds interesting, and I was already working on gender issues.
Right,
So it sort of connected with me. But it's only after the film was made and all these attacks started on the 13th day of the release, because there was no cut. There were literally not a single cut by the censor board, which was quite a landmark decision.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
So, and then we thought, wow, this is amazing. There was controversy. People were sort of talking either like, why you're promoting lesbianism. I remember once I was flying and the person sitting next to me, and he was like, aren't you ashamed that you did Fire?
Yeah.
I said, not at all.
Yeah.
And then it started, but it triggered a
Correct.
conversation.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
my own growth actually happened after the film. I mean, during, of course, I
Correct,
enjoyed
yeah.
the process. It was a great experience. It was a very intimate setting.
Yeah.
But my journey of understanding this whole idea of the other, that
Right,
how
yeah.
we are prejudiced, this
Yeah.
whole idea of normal.
Right,
like
yeah.
we were talking
Correct,
earlier.
yeah.
This whole
Yeah.
thing of that a lot of people say, but this is not normal.
Right,
I'm
yeah.
like, whose normal are you talking
Correct,
about? It's
yeah.
in fact
Who's-
very
yeah.
normal. It's very normal.
Who is
for that
normal and who's normal? Both.
Exactly.
Right,
yeah, both
yeah,
are equally
yeah.
important. So
Yeah.
I think just talking to people, a cross section of responses helped me grow. Every time that I would answer, I would think about it and listen to different people and realize how deeply prejudiced and hypocritical as a society we were. I mean, we are in many ways as well till now,
Yeah.
because we are sort of half modern, half traditional. We can't quite figure out where we are. And I think that became a refrain in my films also. This whole thing of understanding this whole othering and sort of challenging prejudices and discrimination. I think that's sort of become the theme of much of my work.
And, let's talk about the profession of filmmaking, right? I mean, that got you actually into the world of filmmaking. While you were very choosy about the roles you took, you did act in over 40 films, and you also directed, and you got into the business of film, because we have a lot of people who are listening to us who are professionals, who are trying to grow in their profession, and what are the obstacles, how do you overcome the obstacles, and all that stuff. So as a professional, when you were growing, what were the things that helped you? I mean, it still is an industry where there are very few women directors. And so what helped you do what you did? Is it having somebody who believes in you, or is it your ability to market the idea? What is it that helped you do the films that you did?
Strategy, I mean, life is really a journey, and I feel it's a series of choices that you make, and they are informed by your convictions, what you believe in. I never wanted to be an actor, never wanted to get into films, didn't move to Bombay at all at the time, and continued to stay in Delhi.
Yes,
and
I remember visiting you in your apartment.
Yeah,
with my
with your little one.
son.
Yes, I remember that. My God, that was so many years ago.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it remained an interest even after 40 films. And I did a couple of films in the beginning, like I did Fire, then I did Earth, then I did Govind Helani's Hazar Chaurasi Ki Maa, I did Shyam Benegal's, Hari Bhari. So I was working with interesting people, and I thought, wow, this is interesting. But it was still more like, okay, I'm going to do my social work, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to balance it. And suddenly I started getting opportunities to talk, like you've invited me to talk. And I was like, wow, when I did actual social work, nobody called me. And now I'm sort of doing social advocacy more. So I went through a period when I thought, oh, this is all so superficial and I don't want to be part of it. But then I embraced it. And then I felt like, okay, this is maybe my role. This is what I have to do. I have to amplify the issues that are of interest to me or of concern to people, or maybe organizations that are really doing good work, and I can be the sort of the mouthpiece for it, etc. So then it became more of advocacy. And in terms of professionally, I did do a few films that for me were very commercial. For them it wasn't. For them it was their different film. Whether it was Aks with Mr. Bachchan, Om Prakash Mehra's film, or Pitta with Mahesh Manjrekar, where I was with Sanjay Dutt and Jackie Shroff, etc. So for me, they were a little more mainstream.
Yeah.
And they were deeply hierarchical in the way they were done at the time. And this is not a comment only on these two films, but films at the time were very high. Even now they are, but maybe the new corporatization has some benefits, which is, they try to make it a little more egalitarian. But coming from a social work background, which was all about equality and, sort of democratizing the process, suddenly it was all about hierarchy, and I was at the top end of the hierarchy because I was playing the female lead. And it was very uncomfortable for me. Like I would stand outside with shoes, with an umbrella, with people giving me water and whatever, as they say, baby ko juice chahiye kind of a thing. And then there were all these junior artists who would be bare feet, who would have no umbrella, water, they would have to literally ask for it, etc. Food would be different. We would get these enormous...
Your trailer is
different. And you have all this paraphernalia and all of that. And I was like, wow, do I really want to be part of this world? Because I don't know if I'll be the same person, And it didn't even attract me so much. So that's why I started doing other language films. Malayalam and Kannada and Telugu and, Tamil and Marathi and all of that. So I did films in 10 different languages, and I actually thoroughly enjoyed those experiences. They were telling more sort of honest stories. They were smaller. It was more egalitarian. And I would just say, I mean, to professions, any work that you do, why are you doing that work? You know, like fundamentally ask yourself that first. I mean, often it is about, if it's a really, I mean, I'm assuming the people that we are talking to are not doing it literally for their bread and butter, but for their cheese and wine. So if it is that, then, if your needs are less, then it gives you a lot of freedom.
And I think the point here is that you have the opportunity to be a voice that can be heard. That you should use your position, whether you are a
we all have a circle
in a company
of
or whether you are an
Absolutely.
actress, use that position to say something meaningful.
No, but first, your own convictions have to be strong. Otherwise, you'll always be in a dilemma. You'll otherwise always be torn. Oh, but this has more opportunity. This has, this has more visibility. I mean, there are a lot of those options.
Right, yeah.
Throughout my life, everyone's asked me,
Yeah.
why didn't you do commercial films? If
Yeah.
you had done, you would have,
Made
got
so
this.
much more money.
Made so much more money, you would have been more visible. No, some people, even my well-wishers say, even your kind of work would have been seen more.
Correct,
You should
yeah.
have done it at least for that. But I wouldn't have been the same person, I know that.
Right, yeah,
Because that world is not just about doing certain kind of films. There's a whole, there's a game that has to be played by its rules. Like today, most actors have a PR agency, they have a social media team, you have to keep giving interviews, you have photo sessions, whose clothes you're wearing. So much of your time and energy it goes into that, in propping you, in packaging you, so that you become a brand, and then you do a few not so good things, but then those interesting filmmakers
But any PR
also
is
want
good
you.
PR.
Yeah, no, but then even the interesting filmmakers would rather have a more commercial, more accessible in terms of, more massy, a more visible actor than somebody who's less. And rightly so. Because they're already doing an independent film.
Correct.
And these actresses who are anyway having to just look pretty and dance and all that are also itching to do
great
meaty.
actors, yeah.
Well, some are great, some are not so great, whatever they may
But
be.
they
but
want
they're
the
hungry for
opportunity,
it, right?
yeah,
And which is rightly so.
Correct, yeah.
So I knew what all I would be losing, but I still felt it's totally worth it.
Yeah.
Because, then you are more in sync with the person you are and want to be.
Yeah. And I think summary of this is that when you choose a certain path, there are some things you give up. There are some things you choose not to have. But you can't complain about it or regret it. Every decision comes with a consequence. And whatever the consequences, it's fine.
But that's why your convictions are very important.
Correct.
It's not that it hasn't ever bothered me, you see a film and you're like, come on, she's not even the right cast for it,
Yeah.
Or you feel like you hear someone say, oh, I really wanted you, but the producer said, you're not as marketable. And then you feel, I could have done. But you learn, you gradually realize, but this is bound to happen. You've made a certain choice.
Correct.
And if your conviction is strong, slowly you'll stop regretting. You don't even, it doesn't matter.
There's no time to regret.
It comes with that.
Yeah.
No, it's not. It also comes with
that. Yeah.
So you know why you're doing.
Right.
And, but somebody, like you, sometimes I was going through security today and someone said, Aapki manto dekhi. I couldn't believe that security person, that where you put your security check at the airport. He said, itni achhi lagi. And then, he just wanted to keep talking about it. And I was like, really? Aapne kahan dekhi this, that? And if you touch even less number of people, it's not about quantity. It's about, are you able to go into the depths of things? And anything you do with nuance and depth, it can never be massy. So that's a choice that I made very early on. So absolutely no regrets.
So one of the questions I want to ask before we go to the questions that we have is your role as a parent and how does it blend into your profession? We both had our kids later in our life, and you take them along with you everywhere. I mean, they grow up more as your friend than your child, I guess, in some ways. But
younger parents would say that.
Yeah.
Because they grow up with their children, right? Like people in their 25, they are now fully independent, having fun.
Yeah.
And then sometimes they said, oh, but when we were busy rearing, you were traveling the world. You were a nomad. So, don't complain.
Right. So, I don't know, I felt that because I had my son later, I didn't miss not doing anything, so I was always with him. I felt like we were buddies from the beginning. So how is your, one of the questions women face all the time is balancing your career and your
Only we get asked this question.
Yes,
I've never heard a man being asked, how do you manage your, what's your work-life balance like?
Actually, you know what, even today, I think everybody is questioning that a little bit, probably rightly so, because the amount of unhealthiness and loneliness is finally coming out, and there's so much that I think we are trying to be great at everything, and it's impossible. Something has to...
super women, we're trying to be, and
we can't be perfect at everything. But tell me a little bit about how has being a mother changed things in your perspective?
Dramatically, frankly. I mean, I was a mother at 40. And I'd kind of given up by then, this idea of having a child and all that. And then, met someone and decided and all of that. Then I was quite apprehensive about it. And and then people would say that, did you have tears of joy? I was like, no, I was just relieved that, he was normal, I was normal. That the baby is okay. And I wanted a daughter, and I used to keep saying, my instinct tells me that, so every time I even now tell my son, I have an instinct, he's like, please. You've been proven wrong, so do not talk about your instinct. So that's a running joke between us. No, but it's delightful. And I'm still not saying that, I keep saying this again and again, that to be a mother completes you is a complete fallacy. Because I have enough friends who have chosen not to have children, and they are just as happy. So firstly, if I'm gushing as a mother, which I will in the next 5 minutes, but this is not to say, this is my disclaimer, is not to say that if you don't have a child, it's like
somehow life is incomplete.
Yeah,
it's not
every
like
experience is different, right?
That
is, and now it's not a sliding door that I can have that experience and this experience. I had that experience till I was 40 and it was great, and now I have this experience and it's fabulous. And it's like, I think your children make you very honest. They call out if you have any double standards or any kind of hypocrisy. So I think children, I listen to my child a lot. Sometimes it's uncomfortable, literally. Like, he would say, why did you say that to this person, or why did you do that? And he catches me on everything. And again, because he has that space, and parents have to give that space to their children if they truly want to actually grow. Otherwise you say, okay, don't tell me anything. So he has absolute freedom, and we do lots of things together. During COVID, we were like stuck together, and there was nobody. And I made a short film called Listen to Her. If you haven't watched it, please watch it on YouTube. It's about domestic violence and overburdening of the women. Work that women had. It's a 7-minute short that he and I sort of just at home did. We played lots of games. I'm a little strict on gadgets and what food and all of those things, but I think it has changed my life in a way that it has actually made me less, less self-focused, It overall, I think, makes your heart a little larger, because you realize how privileged we are. When you want so much for your child, how can you not want it for other children? Right? But raising a child is very difficult, especially in today's times, because you're not the only influence. There are 10,000 other influences. And we beat ourselves up that did I do it right? Am I too strict? Am I too lenient? What that child is but very well behaved. That child is doing this. We tend to compare, even though we theoretically feel like we shouldn't be comparing. So you're constantly reflecting. You're constantly having to question your own values, your own systems, and so it's a beautiful journey. I'm thoroughly loving it, and I really lucked out with my child. He's quite special.
And I always say that the one group of people that get no training is parents. There is no...
Please don't say parents, mothers. Because at least in our society, mothers do a lot more than fathers.
But
often.
I do think that even for fathers or mothers, there is no playbook. There is no one answer. You don't know how to behave.
But that's about
and
life,
all that
actually,
stuff.
Right? Now we have all these parental books. Our parents didn't do that. We were dragged everywhere, wherever they went. That's how we learned. That's how we grew up.
And I think that, but I don't know what I feel when I grew up. I think of, there was a whole community, like my aunts and uncles.
Because they were also more...
They were all together. It wasn't like
and
they
we
could
were
ask
out on
each
the
other.
street. We used to play. I don't remember sort of sitting at home, because there were no gadgets. Gadgets have changed it for us. But my son right now is in a wonderful boarding school called Sahyadri, which is a J. Krishnamurti school, which is sort of a gadget.
You also
school.
taught in Rishi Valley
I taught
before.
in Rishi Valley briefly. My brother studied there, so it's beautiful. And I go and take classes there. That's my excuse to go and see him every month. And I also get to interact and understand how education is happening these days. But now he's going to come back, and we are both very excited that 11th, 12th he will study in Bombay with we're going to live again together, which is very exciting. But anyway, 4 months he's with me, because they have 4 months of holidays. So I would just say that we don't have to be super multitasker. We have to be kind to ourselves. I think guilt is like a middle name that most women carry. We have to just stop beating ourselves up. I still do it, And
Yeah.
I still catch myself. And when I do that, I sometimes talk to my son. We have very actually mature conversations.
Yeah.
And we talk
Yeah.
about everything. You know, we
Yeah.
are very openly, we talk about
Yeah.
feelings, politics, societal things,
Yeah.
just things that are happening all around us.
And also, it's wonderful to talk to them as adults, because I was talking to my son. My son is 21. I was talking to him about something the other day. He said, "Oh, Mom, you know, when I was 5 or 6, we just moved to India at that time. So whenever you went on business trips, I would cry all night. But Baba told me, when Mom calls in the morning, don't tell her you cried, because she'll feel bad
Oh,
about
that's
going.
sweet.
So we should be happy. We should tell her that we're having a good time together. So you should have a good time with me also. Why are you missing Mom? We'll have a good time together." So he was telling me
Sweet
all
father,
these
yeah.
things. And I was like, wow, I didn't even know this.
Yeah.
You know, and because I said, wow, it seems like it's fine for me to go and come back, you know. But it's
They
sort
often
of
don't also express. I think their children are very, very sensitive.
Yeah,
They pick up
yeah.
on so much. They really
Yeah.
actually care how parents are feeling.
And they're
you
like
know, you can-
middlemen always. Like
Yeah,
they're like
trying to balance. And, you know,
Yeah.
I also separated, and my child also grew up with 2 homes. And it took
Yeah.
some time for
Yeah.
me to actually calm down and,
Correct,
you know,
yeah.
not be sort of angry
So tough
about
on
it.
yourself,
And
yeah.
and now we are in a very good place. And,
Yeah.
and it's made such a difference. But yeah, everything is a journey.
It is.
You know, as
It
long
is.
as we don't put too much judgment on it. Yeah, I mean, I just feel like
happy. We all are breathing.
this
and
is
food on
everything
the
is
table,
as
everything
is, you
good.
know. Yeah, and make the best of it.
Correct. Yeah. And many women in Herky community are navigating career breaks. Have you ever felt the need to slow down?
Always.
This is slowing down.
No, actually, I don't know what is fast and slow. You know, when your interest becomes your career, I know it's that in itself is a luxury to be able to do what you really love doing. Then, and especially in a profession which is not a job, you know, you can, every day can be a Sunday and every day becomes a Monday though.
Yeah.
But potentially it can be a Sunday. Also, I have many interests. So I think specialization is a little overrated. Everyone tells you to excel in something, right? And they say, oh, you don't focus on anything. You're such a good actor. You're not acting. Now you're directing. But then you in between, you wrote some columns. Now you're not doing anything.
Then you have a play. And
then you have a play. And then you go and do all these talks for free. And, you know, like, why do you... Because we equate everything with money.
I agree.
We don't equate it with experiences.
Or joy.
And, you know, just meeting different people and just learning. And all that is somewhere subliminally stored in our mind, which is what makes us. But to answer this question that, in fact, I love working with women who have kind of stopped it and then want to restart.
Right, yeah.
Because... you know, they have that desire, they're hungry for it, but they're also very vulnerable.
Right.
And vulnerability is not a bad thing.
Right.
I think vulnerability is, you know, gives rise to creativity. Vulnerability gives rise to honesty. And sometimes we have to position, we are very confident. This world has become such that you have to show you're confident, whereas inside you're sort of dying.
Correct,
I think that's terrible, right? You should be, so surround yourself with people where you can be yourself. And taking a mid-career break is totally fine. It is difficult. See, it's easier for me to say because in my profession, it's not like... Actually, it is. If I take 2 years off, it's like out of sight, out of mind.
Yes.
Even now, today in Bombay, because I'm such a recluse, I keep saying Bombay, Bombay, it's Mumbai, I know. But in English, we're allowed. You know, like people keep saying, you're still in Delhi, right? You live in Delhi. I'm like, no, I don't. 6 months during COVID, I went to Goa. Some people say, you're still in Goa. They don't even know I've been in Bombay for 15 years.
Yeah.
You know? And so, of course, out of sight is out of mind. I keep saying, just have your needs, curtail your needs.
Yeah.
You will never have to earn too much.
Yeah.
And therefore, you can actually do things that give you joy and you can try out things.
Right.
A lot of the times, if you ask people, what do you love doing? They're like, I don't know what I really love doing.
Yeah.
You know, because you've forgotten what you love doing.
Right.
You're so pursuing what you should be doing and not what actually gives you joy.
Right.
So I hope that at least some of us who are like privileged people, and you all are privileged if you all have a roof over our head, or if, you know, we have an iPhone, or you're already 1%, you know.
Of the world.
Exactly.
Here is another question on what is one cause or issue you wish more men and women openly talk about?
Well, I think, I mean, we don't openly talk about anything. There's so many things, right? But I think just who we are, because there's a lot of pressure on men as well to be a certain way, to be the breadwinner, to be, the confident one, etc. I
Yeah.
just think if we had more honest conversations, and I think marriage is one big thing, considering we never really openly talk about our emotions, our feelings, and what we are thinking in a marriage, because we think, oh God, again, it's going to become an argument. It's going to be a fight. We kind of know each other. You come with so much of presumption, like I know what you're going to say.
Right,
So and once you start it off, it's going to become an argument. So we don't really open up. I think just valuing honest conversation and believing that maybe something good will come out of it.
I also feel that we never talk openly about what we need, asking for help. It's sort of, people say, oh, my mother-in-law doesn't want me to work. But have you ever sat and talked about, this is important for me, who can help me? So unless we ask, you don't get. We somehow
And have
want
good friends,
things to work
mother-in-law,
naturally.
sister, brother, family. Of course, it's all there. We are so predisposed to, caring. Of course, we should care for our family, but I think there's a chosen family.
Right, yeah.
Today, my 2 a.m. calls are all my chosen family. I wouldn't want to stress my parents by calling them up. If I have a crisis, I don't think I'll call my parents.
Yeah.
I'll call and women friends.
Right,
They really stick by you. They give you honest feedback.
Right,
and have people who are going to be truthful to you. Not just praise you and they'll be there, but they'll also be your biggest critics.
Correct.
And those are the friends we have to nurture. But also what happens, often women are not able to give time to their friends.
Yeah.
So they're so bogged down by their roles and responsibilities in the family that our friendships are our casualty.
Correct.
Even though they are our pillar of strength, we don't. That's why single women often reach out more.
Right.
You know? Whereas women who are in those institutions, they're just juggling between, especially if you're a working woman, the juggling is so much more.
Yeah.
I feel like till men don't start sharing the household work, things are not going to change. We are already asking enough questions.
Yeah. How do you protect your creative energy?
I'm creative in the cracks of crazy amount of administrative and managerial work and how's this and like you're just bogged down by house help issues and other stuff, and you're managing your calendar and this and that. So your creative energy has to, I rely a lot on my instinct, frankly. Apart from this daughter becoming a son instinct, usually my instinct is pretty good and I do rely on it. But instinct also, you have to nurture your instinct.
Right,
you have to have lots of different, you have to throw yourself into different experiences. That's the only way you can live and, draw from it. And I just try to be creative in the moment. So I'm doing 100 things and I can go back to my script and then again, acha kya khana pak raha hai and ye sabun khatam ho gaya. I do all of that. Usual things that women have to do. And in the cracks of it, you be creative.
And I have to say that you said you wanted to have a daughter. The minute I got pregnant, I told my sister that I know this is going to be a boy because my father is going to come back to collect his dues. Like all the trouble I put him through, he's going to be born to me and he's going to collect all the dues.
Oh, God. And lo and behold.
Lo and behold, it's so true. And I also feel that, it's only when you're a parent you appreciate your parents. I think the only reason you have children is not because for them to take care of you. Forget that.
Right.
But it's truly to appreciate your parents and what they have gone through. Now I look back and said, my God, how did my dad let me go to some trekking in the Himalayas with no phone, no nothing.
Strong-hearted they were. We are like, if one day there's no call. My son also goes on all these treks and I have to just sort of say, okay.
So like one day we don't do a video call. Where were you? What happened? All this kind of stuff.
But you learn to be less anxious. You have to also work on yourself to not be so anxious. Because there are going to be, especially now he's in a boarding school. And, I do put my phone on silent at night. And that thought always comes, like, oh, what if my parents are trying to call me?
Correct.
What if the school is trying to call me? So I give them all other numbers, my assistants, my landline. I've kept a landline just so that the phone rings. But I think we have to just work on our anxieties as well. We tend to, because all our lives we've just carried so much burden. Worry comes to us naturally, and we've had reasons to worry. We don't have to beat ourselves that why we're so worried, because we've had reasons to worry. But only we are our best friends, so we have to find ways to cope with that.
And I do want to wrap up this by saying to everybody, the one thing you said that I think everybody should remember is the importance to nurture friendships.
Absolutely,
And
I do.
give it the time, because relationships don't happen, easily.
The more you give, the more you get,
Yes.
for sure.
So please take the time to indulge in yourself and your friends and give the time to nurture
Be kind,
them.
If it's not even an indulgence, I think just be kind to yourself and nurture these friendships, because we need them, they need us. And together, because we need that support system.
Yes.
Where you can just sort of let your hair down and say, this is what I'm feeling.
Yes.
This is what I'm thinking. This is my dilemma.
Yeah.
I'm feeling a lot of anger. Now what do I do? Like, help me process it.
Correct.
All of these questions. And
absolutely.
because social media gives you a false illusion of being connected to a lot of people. It gives you a false illusion of being happy and nice. You have this nice photo. You put a filter.
Everybody else being happy and nice.
I mean, nobody really is. Nobody then becomes. In fact, that's becoming a huge problem.
Actually, they say that everybody in LinkedIn is successful, everybody in Instagram is pretty, and everybody in Facebook has a lot of friends, and everybody on X, formerly Twitter, is politically active, like opinion.
That's why I'm like...
none of it is true. So I think we are
real
all...
human connection.
Yes.
That's what we have to keep nurturing.
Yes. And that's what I truly treasure. It's really wonderful to know you for so many... Now I'm like, oh my God, more than 20 years. And I measure it by the age of my son, because I remember visiting you with him, and
yes, he was 9 months old.
9 months old, and sitting there and watching us and stuff. Schlepping him everywhere. And,
that's what I did.
Yeah.
I used to take him to, when I was the chairperson of the Children's Film Society, I was breastfeeding at the time.
Yeah.
I would take him and the nanny, I would feed him, put him on the sofa, work. I took him to my shoot. He would be like hanging onto my waist through... my entire Manto shoot, he was there, 45 degrees heat with 250 people, junior artists, actors, this, that. And you just take them everywhere, because all you can do is give them the right exposure and experiences, right?
Let them see
what they're going to take from it, we have no idea.
Correct,
We can only just give them that environment.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lakshmi.
Thank you.